Good afternoon, everybody. This is your girl, your host, Yvonne Mitchell, along with my wonderful co-host, Mr. John Fisher.
What's going on, world? How's it going today?
Today, we have a very exciting show today. I have a wonderful guest here. His name is Mr. Oliver Thomas, and we are going to be talking about the importance of voting. How are you today, Mr. Oliver Thomas?
I'm doing fantabulous.
It's so good to see you and hear
Good
from
to
you
see
again.
you again. Good to be on this great show.
It's definitely a pleasure meeting you as
You
well.
guys are up and coming in the broadcast, and it's nice to be here.
Yes, indeed. If you guys don't know, Mr. Oliver Thomas is such a big inspiration in the city. He has been here with us through everything. He's very opinionated with some of the best opinions, I think. He also has a morning show on the WBOK radio station, and he's just a pleasure and a wealth of knowledge. So that's why we kind of brought him in here today.
I'm just babysitting the future. The future belongs to y'all. That's all.
Well, man, we'll definitely get some good influences from some movements that you've made in the past, and some influences that you've definitely made in the community about it.
Well, it's a chess game, and too many people are playing checkers. So, I've had a lot of my pieces captured, and I've got some of them back. So,
Something about making the right steps. Man.
That's absolutely correct, man. Pitfalls in life are nothing but it's nothing but a catapult or a step in the right direction. And the beautiful thing about getting up every day is having a chance to make it better.
Right.
That's
Absolutely
so
right.
true. Matter of fact, why don't you tell the people a little bit about you for those who, for some reason, may not know who you are?
Oliver Thomas, native of New Orleans, grew up in the Lower 9, CTC, Capital City, across the canal, you heard me? I'm from the Lower 9, don't mind that. I'm glad I changed my mind about that phrase. Went to McCarty, Lawless, Clark High School, played basketball in college, Wisconsin College of Santa Fe.
Oh, wow, you must have been really good.
I was okay. I was good enough to pay for my education.
Okay.
Of course, your dad was one of the best athletes ever came out of this.
This is
this
true.
state, so you know about good athletics in your family. Completed the Kennedy School at Harvard for senior executives, the Aspen Institute. Spent 13 years on the city council.
Okay.
Was president of the city council. Acting. Co-wrote the #1 show in the city in 2011, Reflections, sold out 13 straight nights. Did 2 seasons Treme, I think 13 episodes. Movie
Jeez.
Deluge, Harold Clark's Fishes of Men. My company, a marketing spokesperson, speaker. Was just a speaker for Native Americans in Service Month for the U.S. Navy.
Wow, how was
Long
that?
ago. It was great. Great to honor Native Americans who,
Right.
in spite of what this country did to them, they fought for their freedom.
Correct.
This country freedom. So same parallel what African Americans have done. And of course, the host of the Good Morning Show, and the owner of OT Outreach Marketing and Outreach LLC. So, and busy. And
Sound like you got
Leah
your
Thomas
hands
is
full.
daddy.
Oh,
So you got your hands in a lot of stuff. I see that now.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to do.
Right. You're right. Right. There's a lot of opportunity out there. It's an election coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We know the importance it is of voting here in New Orleans, because typically it seems like statistically, like Orleans Parish voters don't really show up in the polls. We're looking at like the recent election with the Senate race, 46%, excuse me, of Orleans Parish voters actually came out to vote, which is
Well, that's just not indicative of Orleans Parish. There's a phrase that I coined called democracy by subtraction, where I see that we're playing with subtracting electorate.
Right.
And the danger in that is that if you keep taking away from something, you wind up with nothing. It's the same game that's being played with African American men in the black community. For those who are for our community, we cannot continue to subtract ourselves or allow the system to subtract us, because you can't grow. And based on the numbers of the Civil Rights Museum, we're losing population based on the national trends. So if numbers mean anything, we will not be counted unless we begin to strengthen our community, strengthen our families, and have some population growth. Of course, positive population growth, and having more stronger families, better children, better unions between men and women, or whatever union you may want to have, but something that leaves us a strong legacy and strong families. But everyone's not voting. Politics has suppressed, in many cases, hopes and dreams of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
It's divided, white against black, young
Yeah.
against old, Democrat versus Republican,
Mm-hmm.
conservative versus liberal. And in many cases, that's what the system wants to do. Divided the House cannot stand, it would only fall.
Right.
Wow, that is so true too, because that looks like how they, like, we're never focused on just the issue, we're focused on whatever our party wants to go with versus just having our own opinion and voting for, what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the whole thing with the Obamacare and, now with the Ferguson issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at some point, we have to stop going against each other and fight for the right causes.
Well, conservatives, liberals, and moderates, people who have political party affiliation, people who are not led by their humanity, will do whatever it takes to maintain the status quo or control.
Yeah.
Right.
In a shrinking democracy or in a waning democracy, it is very important that the people who are in power, whether they're Democrat, Republican,
Right.
moderate, liberal, conservative, it is important that they maintain their status quo. We take it seriously. They're only serious in the fact that they get us to pick sides while they go eat lunch and divide up the spoils.
Right.
I had been a registered Democrat for a long time. I'm an independent.
That's what I am.
I'm a registered independent. I don't know that I'll stay like that in the future, but I've been so disenchanted with the fights and the partisanship.
Correct.
That I'm really looking for who's looking for and speaking to me.
Right. So that's a great point, because I think that's kind of where this society is leading to, where people are beginning to be more independent, which is kind of why they, I believe, choose to just not be involved. Maybe they're not getting enough of the information or the resources. So how do you know when a person speaks to you?
People are independent in many cases, but not in their thought and their actions. Whenever I speak to large groups, when I talk about social ills and social science and how people are conditioned, I always use this phrase: 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Now, McDonald's owes your program a lot of money for that sponsorship. But I say that because McDonald's hasn't used that in 20 years, but I remember
Right.
every line and every verse. So, what to buy, social condition, how to think, who to be for, who to be against. They don't pay $3 million for a 30-second Super Bowl ad because they know it doesn't work.
Correct.
On your subconscious and on your conscious anyway. So there has to be time for reflection, independent thought. There has to be time for strategic conversations amongst young people that you guys have on this show to infuse something different from what folk are being advertised.
Right. Right. That's one of the things about seeing some of the more recent campaign ads that kind of really disengage me from particular parties in general, because it's all of slander. It's not about what I can do to save or what I can do to help or here's my plan or here's my course of action. Here's this guy, we all should be against him. Vote to help stop this guy.
Right.
I can't connect with that because, well, why are we stopping him? What are we stopping?
But when you can't connect with that, when you opt out, that type of advertising is absolutely effective.
Correct.
Because those people who are zealots, who have dug in on either side, who have blood oaths,
Right.
even to systems or people that are not for them, they're going to move. They're going to do something. But the person who's frustrated, like you, who says, hey, man, I just can't be with none of that, that means that works. Because it effectively frustrates you and opt out of the system. I tell folk when I talk to young people, when they brag and say, I don't fool with politics. I mean, that sounds good, but politics fool with you.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
Politics
so
fools
you better
with
fool
you.
with something that's going to fool with you.
It does. It just engages me
that's
for
true.
that particular, and I was saying that it from that particular organization, it makes me more interested to know what's going on with the other side.
Good.
Unless I was brought up, and there are those that were brought up and born and bred conservative, know and love, typical America. We would say the American way, which would be more that conservative attitude. But those, and I consider myself an independent now, registered independent. And I was always brought up as in know and love the democratic way and stuff like that until I got out and then I started, actually learning about some more of the principles and stuff like that I actually support on both sides, But when it comes down to what I need for the moment,
Mm-hmm.
for I feel like the betterment of my next 5 year or my next 10 year plan, I have to vote with what I feel is in coordinate or is in relation with what I need.
Well, there's a simple phrase that we've all learned. I'm for who's for me.
Mm-hmm.
If the person you're for is not for you, then it's very difficult for you to be for them.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you know that? Their history, their resume.
Right.
If their resume says they have not been for you or people like you, it's very difficult for you to be fit for them. Now, if in that moment, in that issue,
Mm-hmm.
that person's, that public policy, that candidate seems to be for you, then you make an independent decision.
Right.
And that's why it's good to do research. You can Google anything today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a conversation with Caroline Hunter, one of the apartheid heroes from when she worked with Polaroid back in the day, where they disinvested from South Africa, and they uncovered that whole piece. Caroline Hunter's from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about, even with all the access to information today, people are so diluted.
Yeah.
And their attention spans are so small and so narrow that a lot of folks don't even know what's happening in Ferguson.
Yeah.
They're stuck on a whole nother reality channel, watching a whole nother program, Snakes with Legs
Right.
on channel 651. So they ain't never tuned in to what's happening with Mike Brown
Mm-hmm.
or Barack.
Right.
Right.
And what the two political parties know, they know what buttons to push to motivate their bases. In many cases, well, the Republicans do. The Republicans are extremely good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That is really different. I guess that makes sense that they're really good at it. They're just kind of like forward thinkers, a lot of them. Like they're the money makers, I guess. So they're always thinking of a business idea or marketing.
Well, Democrats play in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans play in every moment. Even when they seem to be out, they're working overnight, and they play to their base.
Right.
Democrats want to have strong relationships with women and African Americans and people of color when it's election time.
Oh, that is true.
So it's very difficult to get to remarry, to get remarried in the moment.
Right.
Especially after you left me.
Yep.
For most of the year.
Right.
But they've been playing that, and that game may have caught up with Democrats, and hey, hold on a second. So you found me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You found me today because the election is tomorrow. And what Republicans are always doing is pounding and feeding their base propaganda, or at least letting them think they're advocating for them.
Right. So out of all the information out there, I know, like you said, or like the lady said, that there's a lot of things that are diluted and there's so much information. Is there a source, like a good source, that if you're like, okay, I want to figure out what politician I should run for, and to find out more about their resume, what are some really good places to check that?
I would say read. You can Google anybody today and fact check them.
Mm-hmm.
Read the political brochures.
Mm-hmm.
But the number one question that I like when people want my support who are running for office is, and I ask them, what have they done? I'm not really interested in what you say you're going to do.
Right.
Right.
Because there's a big world out here already.
Right.
So if you're just telling me what you're going to do when you're elected, and you're saying that you didn't try to do none of that or any of that before you got elected, then so what makes me think you're going to do it when you get elected? And like IWO, the Independent Women's Organization, had a wonderful question that I wish all political organizations and people who are interviewing candidates would actually ask, is that, okay, so what will be your commitment to the community? What was it before, and what will it be after you're elected?
That's good.
Because what we see now, I come from an age of grassroots politics. I don't even drink, but I like being in the bar room, talking to the dude, sitting leaning over the bar at 1 o'clock, asking him what he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't drink,
Yeah.
but I want to know what he's thinking. I want to know I like going into barbershops and having them cuss you out.
Right,
And
because
all
they're going to tell you the
bums,
real.
y'all ain't doing nothing. But hey, let's talk.
Yeah, that's some of the more opinionated conversations that you
And
have.
then they thank you when you leave.
Mm-hmm.
But today, man, this unless it's something really happening, there are very few political people that engage. They will email and they will text you. But in terms of that one-on-one, that banter with voters, but that's up to the voters. The voters need to begin to demand those relationships. And I would say, If you don't like a person, I mean, start petitioning for write-ins. There's states that have write-in candidates, write-in issues.
What is a write-in candidate?
Write-in, somebody not on the ballot, but that's who you want to write in.
All right.
So you want to cash.
I didn't even know you could do that. See, I'm learning.
Write-in issues, write-in propositions. We are so far behind. I don't even know if we're operating in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that.
But the main thing is to ask those questions, do the research, find out what a person has been committed to. Fact check them. Talk to some of their supporters. Let them lie to you. I mean, let them talk to you. But at least gather as much information as possible.
So, who were some of the influences in your political career?
Oh, of course. I mean, mainly Jim Singleton, the general, man. I worked for him for 3 years. When I came back to New Orleans, I was his legislative assistant. I learned people first, work ethic. I don't like to sleep. If I'm in bus, I'm not gonna sleep. While you sleeping, I'm up. Every time I ran for office, when folks said I couldn't win, my last 3 elections were 90, 80 something, 80-something%. I don't think anybody's ever done that. But, I always got more votes than everybody else. Not to brag, but because I wanted to touch people. And Jim Singleton told me an important thing once. I never forget. I didn't call a community person, representative, back once, and she called Jim because she had a relationship, and he said, "Hey, always call people back. A lot of folks know you can't help them. Sometimes you can't do anything for them, but you can listen to them."
Right.
And I remember another influence was the late Roy Glapion. School. But my aunt, the late Leontine Luke, started one of the first political organizations in the city in the Lower Nine. Great influence. She was the head of the citywide parent teachers organization. Daughters of Rebecca, Eastern Star, real big in the community. And current influences, or just a lot of young people that I see now.
Right.
I'm one of those folk, man. I don't believe nothing wrong with our young people, because I think there's a question that has to happen before that. If you're saying something's wrong with our young people, the question before that is then what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
Right. And I agree, because we're not separated from all of this for a reason.
No.
Like a lot of it, I feel like my grandfather's parents taught him how to do it, and then it was his duty to teach my mom, and then from them to teach to us.
We worry about, Yvonne, how young people look. In the last speech I give, I say, stop worrying about how they look. Worry about how they think.
Right.
And how they feel. If you elevate their minds, they're going to elevate their pants. They're going to elevate their expectations. Because, I do this speech where I walked around looking like a fool. I had my bush wasn't combed out. I had 3 plaits down the middle of my head, 2 on the side. You looking like a unicorn with no direction.
Right.
With my polyester shirt wide open, with the undershirt, with the matching underwear. We didn't pull our pants all the way down, but 1.5 inches, so you could see it matched what we call silk, but was really polyester because we couldn't afford silk. With the cowhide belt, with the monogram buckle, with the bucks, with the pick, with the power sign sticking out the middle of my head, looking like I was plumb crazy.
Right.
And I'm gonna talk about some young brother now.
I can't do that. That's real though. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you look crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I think your pants ought to be pulled up, because first of all, that's hygiene. There's outer clothes and there's underclothes.
Right.
If your underclothes are sitting on top of the garbage can by the bus stop, or the bleacher or the bench where somebody else been sitting for years, and you're not protected by your outer clothes, that's nasty.
It is.
That is.
That's hygiene.
That's nasty.
That's hygiene.
Yeah.
It's just back to the basics on that.
And then it's about posture. If you got to walk like a duck to keep your pants up,
Penguin.
then you're creating a model of genetics. If nothing, we are athletic, we're graceful people. You're creating a model of genetics, a physiology that's going to break down at some point, because you're changing your body. So you're changing your posture to keep your pants up. So we haven't even thought about it
In the long term.
in many ways, the way we ought to be thinking. We look at it purely as fashion, and not in hygiene, and not in its body and its structure and function that affects us over the long haul.
Right.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. I love how this man thinks. You just go so into it and so
My
deep.
mind's so messed up. I've messed up so much and thought so wrong that I deserve a period to be right. At least I think. I don't know. But I could be wrong.
It could be. I mean, we all have those little
Right.
slip ups and falls
Right.
and stuff like that. It's all a part of life, of learning how to recuperate
Mhm.
from those potholes that you
It's the
step
beauty
in.
of it.
Right, right. I mean, none of us are perfect. And I think that's too another thing when it reminds me of voting is that, we do have to accept that no politician is going to be perfect. I mean, we're not in ourselves, so it's kind of finding that healthy balance of who we think is fair and just for us versus just who do we think is a saint and who isn't.
Well, I mean, beware the person that shines their own halo.
Mm.
That's a dangerous individual. If someone's constantly telling you how good and holy and transparent they are and how bad everybody else is, that individual is watching.
Right.
For real, for real. The most beautiful people in the world are the ones who've gotten up after they've been knocked down. That's a person you can ride with.
That's right. That's right. Because they're a fighter. They're not going to quit. They've been to the top. They've been to the bottom.
Well,
and
God has gifted them to overcome their mistakes. I don't like to ride with perfect people. First of all, there are no perfect people.
Right.
So if you present yourself as such, I'm afraid of you.
Right. And it's so much pressure. So we can all just relax and just really just be real.
Well, it's a level of dishonesty and a lack of integrity in people who portray themselves as better than others.
Right.
It's a dangerous individual.
That is so true. So, okay, so tell me about how you even got into politics in the beginning.
Man, I came back home and I was just looking to pass time. So I actually started volunteering.
Okay.
Just to have something constructive to do. My mom didn't want us hanging around the house, and and hit down in the hood.
Yeah.
So she was like, find something to do. And I like people.
Right.
So I like passing out flyers and working in the crews, and knocking on the doors in the projects to get people to vote. And I developed a reputation as somebody, who would mingle.
Right.
And then who would work to sun up to sundown, and people watching. I tell young folk, you never know who's watching you.
Yeah.
That is true.
So how you conduct yourself, what effort you put in, you never know who's paying attention. And there were people who were paying attention into the time that I put in and the effort that I put in.
Right.
And they gave me an opportunity.
Wow. So what did you go to school for? What was your background?
Business. I went to school for business and basketball.
Mainly basketball.
Mainly basketball.
Yeah.
Girls.
Yeah.
I was good at basketball.
What position?
Tried to be good at girls.
How'd that work out for
Somebody
you?
just fell in the hoop though
Good.
sometimes.
Shooting the ball. I was if the ball came to me, my teammates usually wasn't gonna get it back. So, but I didn't mind passing every now and then.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No.
What do you think was like a really cool moment for you in politics? Like something that really stuck with you, just from your experience, and it could be anything. You experienced it just.
The young brother who I got involved in mentoring with was Jim Singleton. Had always encouraged everybody who worked for him to get involved in the community. And my father and mother had always encouraged us to do that too. So I started a mentoring program. And the young man that I was assigned to, they considered him one of the worst kids in the school, and I considered him a diamond.
In the rough.
And I was like, he's cool. He reminds me of my brother. I wasn't a bad kid. My brother was something else. Good person, but he was about the neighborhood.
Right.
And but he was brilliant. And I saw this kid, and he was brilliant. And so when he went from a 0.70 grade point average to graduate number 7 in his class,
Whoa.
I thought that I didn't think I could do anything better in my life other than be a father.
Right. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was and to see him today as an international chef and he travels the world, is beautiful.
That is so cool. And all it takes is someone just believing in you.
Well, when people say that, one person can make a difference, I mean, that is such a big cop-out, because you save the world one world at a time. And as all those worlds collide, you don't have to know what the other person's doing. It just makes a difference.
Right. So what are some of the biggest lessons you think that you've learned from your political career?
Always put people first. Of course, I had a downfall in my life, I went to prison for a mistake that I made for 3 years. And I've learned that I always be guarded. The beast does not relent. It's always trying to compromise you. always have the ability to meditate and have people you can talk to that you trust, no matter what you do. The biggest mistake folk make in politics is that they don't have the level of confidence of people who can tell them no. What I see in politics today is too many people with a lot of yes men and yes women around them,
Yes.
or people who want to broker them for their benefit. Have people who are honest enough to tell you, man, that's stupid.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
If you really need help, keep those kind of people in your life, and that's just not in politics.
That's in life period. Yeah.
That's in life, period. And as a black man and black men, to learn to talk about deepest secrets and moments and struggles, we have been conditioned to walk around with a frown on our face, like we bad and like we got it under control while we're hurting and unraveling in the inside. I tell my nephews sometimes, man, put a smile on your face. You went to private school. You trying to.
He trying to be hard with you.
Man, smile. You better be glad you ain't grow up like me and my brother.
Right.
Put a smile on your face. But the world ensouled them this crazy bullcrap image that actually is affecting our physiology and our psychology. Man, just think what it does to put a frown on your face every day. You're creating an atmosphere and an energy about yourself. No matter how difficult your life is, start smiling. You're gonna bring some sunshine in your life.
Right.
And somebody might see you smile, who like that smile,
Right.
who changed your life.
Yeah. Absolutely right about that.
You gotta
Smile
love
can change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is all matter and energy. There's a lot of tension to frown up, to be angry. And that's why folk who are mad at folk. When people ask me all the time, man, who I'm mad at, I say nobody.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at the people mad at me. I love the people who don't love me because they haven't heard enough and lost enough to understand. So I pray for them. I pray for them that they don't have the moments of tragedy.